How to wholesale rental properties. It's Rick Ginn here with Flip with Rick, and today we are going to deep dive on how to wholesale rental properties with tenants, with problems, with everything, so you guys can get paid quickly. But before I get into it, do me a favor. Smash that subscribe button, hit that like button to continue to receive the absolute best free information on wholesaling on the internet today. Have you wholesaled a rental property, either with or without a tenant? It doesn't matter. If you do wholesaling long enough, you will come up with this situation. I'm here to tell you, these properties are prime for some of the best wholesale deals you will ever do. I want you to think about it. One of the biggest stressful situations for a landlord, basically, are people like you and me that own rental properties, are when tenants stop paying their rent, they go through stressful evictions, and they trash the house and move out. And if you haven't had it happen to you yet, it's just a matter of time before it happens. Guys, it's happened to me a ton of times. And to be honest with you, I've had a few properties I've sold as a motivated seller just because I could not deal with the stress of that rental property. We don't want to eliminate these properties. We actually want to go out and find more of them. So I'm going to review on the buy side and the sell side of wholesaling rental properties so you can take advantage of the largest assignment fee you can get off these properties. So let's start and evaluate it on the buy side. A motivated landlord reaches out to you, wants to sell you a property, and that's great. The number one thing you need to look at when looking at a rental property is, number one, is it truly a rental property? What do I mean by that? Is it in a rental neighborhood? Does it cater to rental prospects, or does the house have potential to be sold on a retail or even a wholesale deal? You have to establish this first. I find that most rental properties tend to lie in rental neighborhoods, meaning there's a lot of renters there. That's what they expect. The rents are all around the same price range, and the houses pretty much have the same features, 3 2s, 2 2s, whatever, 2 1s, and that's it. People know what they're getting into, and those types of rental properties need to always stay on the rental properties. I myself have made this mistake before, taking a rental property and trying to turn it into a retail deal. You will be punished for that because you got to understand, end buyers want to move into end buyer neighborhoods. They do not want to move in rental neighborhoods. They're moving out of these neighborhoods, so don't make that same mistake I've made and I see people do all the time. If it's a rental, keep it a rental and move forward with it. You just got to find the best way to maximize the price on it, and I'm going to go over that with you right now. The next thing on the buy you want to look is the condition, the overall condition of the rental property. My favorite ones that have a little bit of wear and tear, but they need maybe a little bit of painting or some flooring. Most likely, though, when you take over these properties, they do need quite a bit of rehab, and you have to quantify that number so you can make an educated offer. Do not overlook at it. Make sure you look at the roof, the AC, and the foundation of the property to make sure you get all the numbers so you can make a sensible offer. In the case where it's rental ready, meaning it just really needs a good cleaning and less than a week's worth of repairs done, those are some of my favorite wholesale deals to do on rental properties because they're really easy to turn around. Heck, you could take that property and put it in your own portfolio if it's rental ready because you save yourself a ton of time, money, and energy, and you should know exactly what it rents for. Which leads me to my next section, which is what we call the verification section of the fundamentals of the rental. You got to find out what the property rents for. The landlord will typically tell you, and they're always going to preface it by this. And when you hear these words, guys, understanding you could probably get a good deal on it. Well, I rent it for X amount, but it's way below market rent. It should be a lot higher. Okay. That means something's gone south in the property and he can't get market rental rates because he either has to fix it up or he has to evict his tenants and get new tenants in there that will pay the market rate. So when somebody tells me the property has so much more potential, which realtors tell me all the time, or the landlord says I could get another $500 a month, my comeback line to them every time is, well, why don't you just go ahead and do it? There's a reason they haven't done it. And the reason is they want to sell you the property because they don't want to deal with the headaches of getting that property up to par. So when you hear those words, understanding you typically have a motivated landlord or you sometimes can have a delusional landlord. Honestly, there's no such thing as a projected rent. Either it rents for this amount or it doesn't. Don't tell me what it could rent for. Tell me what it is renting for. Let's move over to now we're going to sell these properties and let's find how we can get the maximum amount for these properties. So number one, we're going to reevaluate the comps again. So once we have it under contract, we're going to look at the comps, see if things have gone up, gone down, just make sure everything stayed the same, and it usually does. The next part we're going to do is remember, who are we selling to? These types of properties are going to be sold to landlords. It's very, very specific. I do not want to sell them to rehab people. I do not want to sell them to end users. I need to get a list of landlords. They're very easy to get. What I like to do is just drive around and look at the for rent signs and collect those phone numbers, or go on social media and find landlords in that area and just call them and tell them we got a dynamite property to sell them. So the number one thing the landlord's going to ask you is, what is the cash flow on the property? So cash flow is important. Cash flow basically is a comp to your landlords. So cash flow just shows the amount of money coming in. So if the rent was $1,000 a month for 12 months, it'd be $12,000. And then you minus off any of the carrying costs of the property, which would be insurance, taxes, any type of basic maintenance to the property, tax prep, anything like that, and you come up with a net number. If that property, say it costs $12,000, we bring in $12,000 on the rent. And remember, I didn't put any vacancy in there. I like to at least factor in a month or two of vacancy, but at least 1 month. And from there, we're going to take the $12,000 minus off the expenses. So say the expenses were $2,000, which is really light. Expenses are usually about 50% of the cash flow. But let's just say it generates $10,000 of income. Now, that $10,000 is how a landlord is going to evaluate if it's going to be a good return on investment, or ROI. So typically you take that $10,000 and then you divide it by the sales price, and it'll give you a return, also known as a cap rate, which is short for capitalization rate, also known as ROI, which is a return on investment. So if the property generated $10,000 net in cash and the property sold for $100,000, that would give the landlord a 10% return. Call it an ROI, call it a cap rate, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. Now, in my opinion, it's really hard to evaluate single family homes based on return on investment, ROI, or cap rates, because that's really applicable to multifamilies and large apartment complex. So I always go comps first. If I can't find comps, then I'm going to go to cash flow. But most landlords, they're looking for 8-9% plus return. Think about it. If you gave someone your money, what would you expect in return? You wouldn't expect 1 or 2%. That's what you're going to wind up getting a bank if you're even lucky. So most landlords, they like double-digit numbers, like 10%. If that cap, now you can play around with that. You just take the NOI, which is the net operating income, and divide it by the price, and it gives you that rate. This is where algebra will pay off for you. You can reverse the numbers. So if you want to get it to a 9 cap, if you raise that price to maybe 110,000, it probably puts you somewhere around like a 9 cap. I don't have a calculator in front of me. But guys, cash flow is everything to landlords. They love to hear these numbers. And the more you understand the numbers, the better product they feel like they're getting from you. And they feel like you understand what they're trying to accomplish. All landlords buy properties for cash flow. The appreciation is the gravy on top of your turkey, if you want to think about that. Cash flow is what gets everyone through the hard times, and the appreciation is what truly makes people wealthy. So now you're going to go out and find your landlord. So you just got to find a list of landlords. You can use social media, you can use PropStream, you can use Batch. Guys, just call on signs. It's really not that hard. Once you have that, my favorite one is if you call on signs around the neighborhood. This is one of the best ways to get a premium on these types of properties. Why? Because if I'm a landlord and I own 4 houses on one street, and you can let me pick up one more house 3 houses down on that street, I'm telling you right now, I'll pay a premium for that property. And once you know he or she owns 4 houses on that street, you're in complete control. This is one of my favorite ways to find what I call landlord's proximity sales. This is how you're going to get your highest margins on wholesaling rental properties. Guys, it is my favorite way to do it. The more properties they own, the more apt they are to buy it, because it consolidates their portfolio and gives them bigger numbers and spreads out their returns and allows them to maximize the market when they go to sell their properties, because they'll set the price on that street. And for that reason, a proximity landlord will pay more for a wholesaled rental property in that area. So don't forget about that. And honestly, you can almost demand your price. Just don't be greedy, but I would probably get a 10 to 15% premium for selling him or her that house. So remember, when you're talking to your landlord, they want to get down to business. When we're selling a property that we have a bad tenant in it, meaning the tenant's not paying the rent and they ran the property down, guys, do me a favor. If you're selling the property with the tenant in it, which is perfectly fine And in a seller's market, landlords really don't even care. They'll do anything to get their hands on these properties. You have to make sure you disclose this. So I would put it in writing and let them know, hey, listen, the tenant's here. I haven't started the eviction process. You can buy the property. I'll give you this price, but you're in charge of the eviction. Here's the tenant's information. You get it in writing and you're covered. Do not make a promise to the tenant. Do not make a promise to the previous landlord, and do not make a promise to the new buyer of what you're going to do. You're selling the property as is with the tenant. They're getting a little bit better deal. Let them deal with it. Occasionally we deal with it and we'll start the process, but the owner always has to finish out the eviction. And if you change owners in the middle of the process, you kind of screw it up. So in a perfect world, if you're selling it with tenant, let the new buyer take over the process. And when they take it over, then they can do that. That way you get paid. You don't have to deal with the mess. You just have to disclose it. Now, if you have a really good tenant and just you got a bad landlord, then let the new landlord, let them know that the tenants are really good. They want to work with you. They have a deposit, we'll transfer it over, and they're willing to pay market rates. I would act as the in-between person between that tenant and the new landlord because it's the right thing to do. And why not? If they're taking care of that property, making it easy for you to show the property, why not do that deal and help them out? Make sure you have full disclosure on the plans with the tenants if they're good or bad when you're wholesaling a rental property. So guys, the biggest benefit of selling these rental properties wholesale is they're very fast deals. So all landlords are equipped to pay cash for properties. It's what they do and they love it. And for that reason, it happens all cash. It happens fast and you are doing little to absolutely no repairs. Actually, no repairs. Very rarely. Maybe you paint the outside. That's about as far as I would ever go. And I rarely ever do that. So think about this, guys. A lot of times you're solving a bad landlord that was probably never supposed to be a landlord. You're solving a bad tenant or possibly a good tenant with a bad landlord, and you're going to resolve that situation. So selling a property with a tenant that's not completely cooperative to a new cash buyer, aka landlord, is your ability to solve a problem. A, the seller doesn't want the property anymore. B, you have a landlord that's dying for that property. And C, you have a tenant that either was following the rules or not following the rules. You are the sole problem solver. And by solving that problem, you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars flipping these rental properties via wholesale. Most of them, we do it assignment. That way we maximize our returns. And guys, don't forget about the landlord proximity rule. If they have multiple houses in that area or that block, they'll usually pay you a 10 to 15% premium. So guys, that's it on wholesaling rental property. Go out and be a problem solver. Are you guys selling properties with bad tenants in them? And if you're not, I want you to open up to the strategy, because if you're truly a problem solver, somebody's going to solve this problem. It might as well be you. Do me a favor, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button to continue to receive the absolute best free information on wholesaling today. Guys, I'll see you in the next video. This is Rick Ginn. See you.